of the meeting. So we can move on. I think that that's what I wanted to say to start with, and just to see what is the objective of this meeting today and what is in our agenda. So basically, as the title of the webinar suggested, we have an excellent occasion that the European Commission tabled the so-called Interoperable Europe Act proposal. And this proposal gives quite some content and opportunities for our community as well. And this is what we would like to show you and guide you through the main pillars of the proposal, and then start discussing how the different pillars of the proposal will or could help us in the community, or how we could adapt ourselves. And today specifically, we will focus on the Interoperable Europe board powered by the Join Up platform, which is at the same time the platform where our community is hosted, and also the trainings, which is also an element. But I don't want to preempt Isa's, my colleague's presentation very soon. What is in the Act? So what we will do today, if you can move on. I'm, as I said, Jofi, I'm already doing this welcome framing, and then my colleague Isa from the very same team will take over and guide you through the Interoperable Europe Act proposal. And then we are very happy having our colleagues from the Join Up team with us, Bernard and Petro. So they will take over and show you the newest feature of the platform, and then open up the discussion with you. What additional features you would need, or what, from the existing ones, what do you like really that helps community flow and community work. And then we have a next session guided by our project team on your training needs around Interoperable Europe Act. And we will just close up with that. So let's start with the framing then, who we are. And if I may, so first of all, there is a very passionate team, the so-called legal interoperability team of the European Commission. We are positioned in the Informatics Directorate General DG Digit within the interoperability unit. And next to me, I'm working with two lawyer colleagues, Isa and Aruna. And I have also in my team Cecil, who brings in the business analyst angle. So we form a multidisciplinary team, and we are really passionate about digital-ready policymaking. So basically, we are behind and with the support of some super external colleagues, we are behind the so-called BLSI, Better Legislation for Smoother Implementation community. And this community intends to be a multidisciplinary one. So you see that already our team is a multidisciplinary one. And we intend in this community to co-create with you new tools, new methodologies, and also share among each other good practices around topics like digital-ready policies, which for us mean basically that policies from their design on should think of their potential digital implementation, which is now more and more common in our days, and avoid that there will be interoperability barriers in the implementation phase. Then we also focus on legislation and technology, where the angle is a bit the inverse. So we see how technology can help the lawmaking process. And we also have the regulatory reporting bit, which we consider as a super use case, because in many legislation you have reporting clauses, how you need to gather data, for example, to monitor your policy, to assess risk, etc. And very often this data gathering is supported by IT or digital means. So it's a kind of example of digital-ready policymaking. So you see that for us, these elements, digital-ready policies, legislation and technology, and even regulatory reporting, adds up to digital-ready policymaking. And this is a term which gained importance recently, I would say, though there is quite hard work and conceptualization behind, and we have forerunners in Europe like Denmark, who is dealing with this since 2018. But if we go on, we can show you that digital-ready policymaking in 2022 gained importance in several ways, at least in the European Commission context. So, end June last year, the European Commission adopted its own new digital strategy. It's called the Next Generation Digital Strategy. And among its 5 main priorities, enabling digital-ready policymaking is one. So we are really happy because this is a kind of pledge from the Commission to go in this direction. And then our community and our team produced in July, a few weeks later, the first online training on digital-ready policymaking, which is available for everyone, for you as well. And later you will see the link. So please, I encourage you, have a look. It's not a long one. I think 30 minutes is absolutely sufficient. And what is important that the Commission also added this online course to the learning path of its own policy officers. So it's really acting upon to spread this culture, spread this mindset within the Commission. And we reached to the main dish of today, breakfast, basically the Interoperable Europe Act, which was adopted on the 18th of November last year, and which is a bit of the product of our unit dealing with interoperability, and which intends to create this cross-border interoperability as key enabler for European digital public services. And this is the act we will dive in a bit in a moment. But what is also important to note that this act was accompanied by a communication. And if we move on, this communication is very interesting because it really makes the link between the Interoperable Europe Act and our topic, digital-ready policymaking. So the communication has an own chapter on digital-ready policymaking with some quotes I put on the slide for you. Like it states that digital-ready and interoperable by design policymaking will support the emergence of trans-European digital services. So we should start from the policy design on to reach to nicely flowing digital public services. Then it also just underlines that the Commission in its digital strategy and also its whole better regulation agenda is already having this notion of digital readiness and digital by default principle. Also going on, it calls on the other institutions to play the game and the co-legislators, because indeed it's one thing the Commission is tabling, but then the Parliament, the Council are coming in to make modifications, make the act even better. So they should also think digital readily to do that. And finally, and a final quote that even when we will implement our Interoperable Europe Act, we should be digital ready, of course, and walk the talk. So for example, when we will build the monitoring system for our own Interoperable Europe Act, we should do it in a digital ready manner, meaning we need to reuse all the data available already from other reporting mechanisms under the broader digital decade umbrella, and use the digital tools, so finally hope to get machine-readable reporting formats. So this is just a teaser for you to see why we believe that our digital-ready policy-making-oriented community should look at this Interoperable Europe Act and even deep dive, possibly in several webinar sessions to specific topics. And with that, I hand over to the team to guide us further. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I am Sabina from Deloitte Italian team, and today I will explain you how we can use Miro together so that we can both give a great contribution to this workshop. So what we expect from you today is for sure participation. So don't be shy. If something is not clear, please speak up. You can both participate verbally or written using post-its in Miro, and also feel free to write questions in the Teams chat. And just for you know, we are using Miro because we think it's the best tool to facilitate discussions during workshop. So let's get into some tips to get familiar with Miro. So Miro is a board where you can see and you can add information from your side. To move around, you can click with the right button and drag the board. You can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel, or you can also use the plus minus sign at the bottom of the screen. If you want to add node, you can select an existing post-it and then copy paste it, or you can press N on the keyboard, as Atina is showing. You can select the sticky notes and move it around if you pleased. And you can undo redo by clicking with the arrows on the left of the screen, and you can also use Ctrl-Z, Ctrl-Y. And if you want to fill in the sticky note, you can just double click on it. So the instructions that we want to give you today to have a perfect flow of the meeting is following the facilitator, which is Atina, and you can click on her avatar, which is in the top right corner. You can also jump on yourself in different part of the session by dragging around, but we suggest to follow the facilitator to have a better flow of the meeting. So now we have a icebreaker question for you, just to know each other. So are you more a coffee or a tea person? And please drag the thumbs up whether you prefer tea.
Right through the proposal that, as Sophia said, has been presented in November by the Commission and is currently already discussed in the Council, and we are also in the Committee of Regions. They have also started, next week we will have the first session with them, and the Economic and Social Committee is also preparing an opinion, so it's really, negotiations have started, so whatever I present today is the Commission proposal. The negotiations are of course ongoing and will form the proposal and make it hopefully even better. But anyhow, we think it's very, very important to start already thinking about it today with our community, because when we get it, we want to stand ready to implement, and some of the things are good to do maybe anyways, and we are doing anyways, but we hope for a new push for this topic with this legal proposal. So I want to deep dive into 6 topics today. First is the Interoperable Europe governance, then the Interoperable Europe portal, and there will be a very deep dive with later the JoinUp team, who will tell us how JoinUp might come in this Interoperable Europe portal. It is set as it's set out in the legislative proposal. Then we have the element of mandatory interoperability assessments, policy implementation support projects, innovation and support measures, and training. So let's move on and already start looking at the first 2 topics. The Interoperable Europe governance. So the overall idea of this proposal is that is not to set out legal or set standards on interoperability and say this is where all Europe has to go, but the idea is that there has to be a strong governance, a strong cooperation mechanism around interoperability, and that this is lacking actually. The legal basis for the lawyers among you is the one on the trans-European networks. That has always been the legal basis for actions on interoperability, and it's also used, for example, by transport and electricity. And you might think also that the train example somehow fits, because there's local, there's private, there's all kinds of trains, but they can run on the same rails from country to country, and the schedules are set in a way that this can run smoothly. There's this kind of network, and this is the vision we are having for smooth digital services, where the borders don't create burdens, but you can access from anywhere. So, but what we say is the most needed is the governance. So this is like the heart piece of our legislative proposal, the structured cooperation, and that it should be co-owned by the member states and by the EU, because implementation of law is an issue of the member state, and in many cases of regions and local authorities. So as we have designed it in the board, there is in this, which is the main decision-making body, there is the member states and the institutions, especially also the Committee of Regions and the Economic and Social Committee. And then there will be an Interoperable Europe community. And this is, I think, where we come in, which is interesting for us, because there is specific work that is already set out in the legislative proposal. And the community is there to support this work, to give their input. And there is some mechanism set out in the legislative proposal, how they can channel in the input in a structured way. And there's certain... So we think that what we are doing today should become part of this broader Interoperable Europe community. We know there are other very lively communities in interoperability, for example, SEMIC, the community around semantic interoperability solutions, but our legal interoperability solutions that we now label digital readiness, because this is, I think, more understandable for the non-technical world that we want to address, because we want to address policymaking. I think it's relevant that they also play a very big role in the Interoperable Europe community and bring in their knowledge. And I jump already to the second part, which is the interoperable. No, we have to stay here for the portal. So the portal, on the right side, which is set out in Article 8, will become a one-stop shop for shared and reusable solution. And you will see in Article 8, there's a whole catalog set out of what has to be on the portal. So we want, and the community plays a role in this portal and should have also the opportunity to give feedback to certain elements to improve and to share knowledge and help develop the solutions that are out there further. So what should be our role in this portal? And this we will discuss further when we do the deep dive with the join-up team. How can we contribute? How do we envision such a portal? How should it look like to also help people do digital-ready policies? And so what kind of features do we need? Today we have join-up, but they will talk about the development process, and we can really start contributing today to where we think this should lead when we want to become an Interoperable Europe portal that can support this very structured cooperation around interoperability solutions. And now we can jump to the next slide, which is the mandatory interoperability assessments, and this is kind of the most binding part of this proposal, which is, as I said, mostly about cooperation and community and finding back transparency, finding where things are out, setting out clear processes. But there is like a kind a little mandatory piece, which is the interoperability assessments, and they should be performed before you are setting legal, organizational, semantic, or technical requirements for IT systems. So maybe you will this already rings a bell when we talk about policy making that has to be digital ready. We say that if you write law, you most probably set already requirements for IT systems that then have to be implemented by somebody else. And you have to think about those consequences. You have to be aware about those consequences, not to create barriers or even to foster opportunities in this case. So the article, if you look into it, the entry point is the technical solutions, and this is we are doing this because we want to have the technical solutions smooth. But if you look a bit further, you will see that there is the link to digital-ready policymaking is not super obvious. I acknowledge this, but it's there because you have to you look at the requirements before you make them mandatory. And this is, for example, if it's legal requirements before setting them in law. And this is why we think it's very important that we continue discussing on how to do this in practice. And how to set out guidelines. For example, then the board will eventually set out guidelines. This is foreseen in this Article 3, but I think our community could give great input to these guidelines, and we are counting on you to help us in the development process of those guidelines or technical tools, which also the Commission, it's also in the article that the Commission may provide technical tools. And also here, I think we have discussed some technical tools in the past in our webinars, and I think it would be very interesting to explore further these topics. On the right side, you see the policy implementation support projects. They are set out in Article 9. And this is a structured process to jointly work on reusable interoperability solutions linked to implement EU policies. So it's a mechanism where the board can ask and say this policy will be difficult or very relevant for us to implement. We want to work on this together, and then already in the design phase, very early on, you can start this process of a structured policy implementation support project where together you would kind of develop a reference implementation. So it's nothing that member states are free to implement the way they want to do it, or not even member states, but local authorities, but they working early on those kind of projects can help having little building blocks ready that you can reuse in your context and adapt to your context, and helps you to implement at lower costs and quicker, and helps also back again the policy making not to set things in the legal text that are in the end then hard to implement. And here also the community plays in, because the support projects, they are not only on member states level, but they can then again call upon the community who would be interested to take part in those projects, and then it's open also to other actors. So here again, I think our community's expertise and with the links between policy and digital implementation could be a big asset. So I think we should, where you might be interested to take part in those policy implementation support projects. Let's jump to the next two. And then on the left, you see the chapter around innovation and support measures, and there this is, I don't know if you're aware that there's, for example, a GovTech incubator already running, but in the future in the legal text it's set out like a structured mechanism where member states can work together on innovative solutions, so something that is not there yet and that is, for example, potentially working with innovative technologies. And there is also in Article 11 and 12 the possibility for regulatory learning, and we have talked on this in the past, regulatory sandboxes. There is now, we propose to set out a clause that can be used when you want to test something cross-border. I know that many member states have already very interesting experience in the field, and then also in the sectors there's great stuff going on, but we felt that it might be useful to have a business agnostic, a non-sectorial mechanism set out that helps to test something not only in one country but bring two countries together, and then and that also helps to set the right context in the with regard to EU legislation. So it's on the one hand, regulatory sandboxes are on the one hand about trying out innovative new solutions, but also to really gain the regulatory learnings from this. And this is why we also think it's important to have a clause to then feedback through the Interoperable Europe portal what needs to be changed so that those innovative solutions could potentially be used also in a broader scale. And then the last building block is around trainings. This has also found its way into the legal act. So there is in the leading, so it's making upskilling on cross-border interoperability in the public sector a task required by law. So it's nothing nice to have, but it's something that has its own importance. And there again, training material will be found on the portal. So there's a link back. Where can I find it? And as you know, we have already started. This work, and we want to contribute in the future to it. And we would be happy if you join us in this journey. I see there
is a question on the chat. Yes, maybe before we move on.
Okay.
I don't know if Mark, you would like to speak up instead of just reading the question.
Yes, okay. My question is, how can we create a top-down and back network to bring the multi-government structure of Europe and the member states, the federal states and the local special units together with open source data and platforms? Because we have to make a progress to put all the sources and all the knowledge we have at the top to the real end users and the communities and the federal governments. And in all the special units we have in Germany, at least, we have thousands of public services which are all connected to the public. and we have an Online-Zugangsgesetz, OZG, which is already in force, which has to be made about 500 services public on the internet to the general publics, and at the moment we have about a discussion to bring about 20 of them to all of that, because otherwise our federal governments and the local governments are not able to interconnect all these things. And so we get started with some main experience here in Germany, but we are on the way to connect it all, and we need a way from the top down and back to the top, otherwise we will not succeed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark, for your question, and which is super relevant. And we also see not only, I know that in the Online-Zugangsgesetz is very much very important for Germany, but then on top of it is also the digital single gateway, which is a bit going in the same direction. Is also there is a big implementation going on around this, and this act is not replacing this or is putting something on top, but is actually really about this structure, top down, bottom up. How can we ensure to work together around this and provide member states, public administrations with the tools to help them implement it? So for me, the portal, for example, could play a role in this, bringing transparency and showing what is the subset that is already mandatory, not because it's on the portal, but because of some other acts, for example, and then to link it with a community approach that you say, okay, there is a great open source stuff out there, but what are the ones that we should, as public sector, have really an eye on, because these are the solutions that could eventually become the ones that we want to develop together. And I think one element that I haven't covered today in this very short run through the Interoperable Europe proposal is the agenda, where the board, this would be more top down, decides on joint priorities, which needs stuff that is needed for where all member states are working on, but up to today individually. And in the future they might say, no, but it doesn't make sense that we all develop the same solutions that are in the end just exchangeable, and you just need to translate maybe, but this is the least of the efforts. But the community then comes back the bottom up, because for the agenda, for example, the community can contribute to and make proposals. What should be high on the agenda? What are the things that we need to work on together? And even this can be done, as I said, there's the link to EU policies, so this can be done with what is on the agenda anyways, but with what just comes as a legal obligation without the reference solutions attached to it. That might already exist somewhere in Europe, but there's no knowledge that it exists. So it really, for me, the transparency is one of the main also benefits that we could maybe reach with this act, is saying, okay, this is the official portal. What we have here is up to date, is recommended by the member states together to reuse. And then, of course, there has to be a broad space also for experimentation, for discovery of things that are not yet mature, but that could be very interesting to explore in the future. But Sophia, I also saw you.
I just very much wanted also to acknowledge that, Mark, you really put your finger on the core of our proposal of the Interoperable Europe Act, which wants to create this structured governance, bringing a bit the top-down element with this agenda setting and board, but at the same time keeping the bottom up with the community. And Anna, a colleague at the very beginning of this meeting, just asked, okay, you put a series of webinars, so what's the next? And exactly this was the idea that Isa showed us these 6 building blocks. And today we will deep dive a bit into the Interoperable Europe portal, so which could be a platform also for knowledge sharing and bringing out all the assets which could be reused, and the training. But you see on this slide the Interoperable Europe governance and the community bit. And for example, this is the second webinar topic for me, where we could together think a bit how this structure could work, and very specifically how our community, which is now branded as BLSI community, but I have some ideas we could maybe become the digital ready policymaking community to discuss with you. So where we can deep dive in the governance and also later on go into the other pillars like the interoperability assessment. So many thanks, Mark, for that. And yeah, Isa, you mentioned transparency, and I think this is transparency and inclusiveness. This could be the motto also of our community and our approach. So that's why we are here, and this is the moment also now that you become more sharing and putting your ideas. So I call in the team to show us the first discussion. Isa, back to you.
Yeah, so here we would like to gather your feedback on which are the topics that you would like to discuss further in the future, and you can just check again at this thumbs up, and if this is the topic that you would like to discuss further in the future. Or, I mean, we already promised that we can do in the next webinar around it, but it should not end there. But then we should also, in this webinar, we can discuss on more practically what kind of output would we like to see in the future. So just take yourself all the thumbs that you need to say, okay, on these topics we would like to talk further. Today we will be talking about training and the portal, but also here this is just the kickoff. And then if you say you want to work on training together, or you want to give more feedback on where your Interoperable Europe portal should move, you are also very welcome to put your thumb again there because you think it's important. And then on the right hand, you can also put your own propositions. You say, okay, you have not covered enough things of this act, or there's something that we find super useful for our community, but that we couldn't find now in your very short presentation. Then please feel free to drop us a line. And as and of course, if you we also put there our functional mailbox. So if anything comes up also later, or if you want to make a specific proposal, just use our mailbox. Speak up today, but also we also always have the channel open and happy to receive your input.
Yes, and some of you signaled that for some connection issues, they couldn't enter the Miro board. So either you opt now for the chat, you just put your preference there and we move your content to the Miro, or this board will stay open this week, certainly. So you can later on, when you have a stable internet connection, come back and put your comment or content. And the thumbs up are flying here and there. I see buy-in for the mandatory interoperability assessment, guys. I'm so happy to possibly work on that with some of you later. Super. Isa?
Yeah, and I see also a lot of interest for the governance. So
yeah,
how can we make the community best talk to the board and back, and how can we really engage a broad public? Yes, but I see hands raised. No?
Not on my side.
Oh, okay, it was a very quick.
Yes, I wanted to mention, yeah, we are not in an innovative mode, but we just got indeed in the chat from Marina, who cannot work on the Miro, that she would go for the innovation and support. So I move her, or if someone could from the team move a thumbs up to the innovation and support measure for Marina, please. Yes, it is there. Great. And you don't have now right away new proposals for other topics, but of course, so we table this based on the Interoperable Europe Act. You also heard an additional topic, the agenda setting, but it's more for the governance. If you have something else, or during the interaction today, something comes to your mind, you can always come back to these bluish sticky notes. And then looking at the time, I think it's also high time to explore the join-up universe and what the Interoperable Europe portal brings us. So if the support team agrees as well, then I just invite my colleague Bernard from our team and his binom today, Petro, to take the floor and show us what is this platform about and how it helps a community to strive. Bernard?
Yes.
So, good morning. My name is Bernard Klaus, and I work in the Interoperability Unit of the European Commission with Sofia and Isa. I am responsible of the JONUP platform, and Petro and I will introduce you to JONUP. So, what is JONUP?
Oh, sorry, Sam. We hear some background noise. Please, participants, just check whether you got somehow unmuted and mute yourself. Okay, many thanks, Bernard.
So, about JONUP, what is JONUP? JONUP allows people to share, but also to find any solution to support the digital interoperability in Europe. So here, I present you the top reasons. So first, you can find any solution. And what is a solution? It could be a guideline provided by the European Commission, could be learning courses, could be technical specifications, standard, but also code software you can reuse. And mainly these software are open source. In your case, what you can do also is to promote your own actions, your own content, and like that to enlarge your community. And also any content you put in JONUP, we are in charge also to promote it and to relate your content on social network like LinkedIn or Twitter. It's also the possibility to be in touch with many professionals, because it's one place where people can find information, but also to make link with other experts. Every day we try to put news and to promote events, so it's the right place to be aware about all the new stuff in the digital world. So about interoperability, about artificial intelligence, about semantic, about the new legal act. So now I will let you. I let the floor to Petro, who will continue to explain some of the aspect of JONUP.
Thank you, Bernard, and hello everyone. Good morning. So we're going to jump in, and the next slides will be about how you can create your content and engage more or less with your colleagues and the managers of the communities and all that. So let's start with the basics. Many of you, or some of you definitely will know, we have these 4 main elements or content type elements that can help you create your content. So here you can see the news item, events, discussions, and documents item types or content element types. So here, obviously, as you can see, each one has its designated, let's say, or at least top reason to be used. So news items is self-descriptive, right? Evident. Definitely, if you have something to announce, you can create one. Here, importance, I would put on the elements of visuals. So even on this, what we call tiles in JOINUP terminology, or these cards, as you can see, you see that the image stands out. So you have your title below, image above. Be sure to add an image to make it more catchy, eye-catchy, and have better views of your content. As you can see from these 4, the 3 support the image. The discussion item will support it in the near future. We're going to add it also there for better visual, let's say, appearance. So news, self-descriptive, events. Obviously, a lot of events are going around. I know that the community here, your community, is posting a lot of events, doing a lot of events. So definitely you're taking advantage of this. Again, a nice image. It's a nice element type. It has also the functionality of the map, geographical map inside, and all the features someone would expect to see in an event, like agenda description and all that features. It even supports remote links for remote webinars online, let's say, sessions and all that. So definitely useful and the most suitable to showcase events. Discussion items, quickly here, it's a mini forum element type. So if you want to engage, and we have a dedicated slide, so I won't stand on this too much here, definitely it's the one that you should use if you want to post something and expect responses, or you want to, let's say, move a bit the community or your colleagues or your, let's say, professionals. It's the ideal item to use, and we will see a slide with more information about it. And documents, this could be a bit more cryptic compared to the other 3. keep in mind that you can use it if you have something to attach to it, PDFs, or it's a document that was published from your community, or you are referring to a document published elsewhere, but it's relevant to your community. So keep in mind that the document type could be used for that type of elements. So we're gonna move to the next slide and speed up a bit because I know the time is pressing. So we're gonna start now introducing how you can interact with JoinUp based on the content elements now. Okay, so here, 4 slides about this. First of all, we have to note here that all of those 4 elements that we showed allow comments. So it's the best way to share your opinions, your thoughts, or anything on anything that you read. So if a news item has something very interesting, you want to find out more, you can post a comment, maybe asking the author of it to provide more information or point you somewhere else for anything else that you might be interested in that article. Again, events, discussion by default have comments, but events and documents, they also have comments. So you can start, let's say, expressing your thoughts in those items based on the topic they were covering. Keep that in mind because it's very, very important that in another way to engage. And note that anything you post as a comment, the creator of the item will be notified. So they will respond to you, plus other users will see your comments and you can start maybe an interaction based on that specific topic. Comments, as you can see, first of all, you have to be signed in. As you can see from that post-it note up there on the right, you have to be signed in to post comments and create content, just to be clear. So definitely sign in before you want to interact. And some highlights here is that we support threads also in comments. So you can go in a different direction. You can reply to another comment and start, another thread on that. So it's nice to clarify and go to different, let's say, directions. If a user has commented on something and you want to continue his, let's say, logic from his comment and down. So keep that in mind. You can create threaded comments, and also images, hyperlinks are also supported if you want to add something to make it a bit more, let's say, interesting for your colleagues. Permalinks, of course, are available in case you want to share the link. So anywhere you share that link and anything that happens on the platform, you will be sure that that link will point always to that comment. And as I said, yeah, available to all item types. We can move on to the next slide. So here, this is what we mentioned, the discussion item. So it has some extra features because as I mentioned, you can imagine it as a mini forum. It's a very, very, let's say, flexible type. So definitely a bit underused, to be honest. So discussions allow you to do a few things that we mentioned here. First of all, you can follow a discussion, which the other types don't have that feature. So what does it mean to follow? Whenever a new comment is added, you will receive an email notification, so you can go there and see, what's happening. What is this new comment or comment? So definitely you can follow a subject that way. Be always updated if something changes. You can share, of course, a discussion item, and as you can see at the bottom left, you can share it through social media, plus to any groups or communities, let's call them, on JoinUp. Just keep in mind that to share in any other collections or solutions, I'll call them communities just to simplify things, you will have to be a member of those communities. Okay, just keep that in mind. Otherwise, you won't have a list there, or you'll have only the JoinUp, let's say, community. By default, you're registered there when you sign in on JoinUp or when you create your account. So keep in mind, sharing in other communities, you have to be first a member of that community. Plus social media, so you can shoot out and share the discussion item. And that way you can help engage and bring people to it from outside JoinUp. And creators of the discussion item have the benefit of inviting other users. So if I'm a creator, I'm in a community, I create a discussion item, I know that I have already a few colleagues that are interested in this item and they will contribute, hopefully. I can invite them, and the invite window, as you can see at the top right, basically allows you to add their emails that you know about, and you can start adding them. They will receive a notification, of course, and they will decide if they want to follow and join the discussion or not. So it's up to them afterwards to continue this, let's say, process. Of course, one, as the post states, to invite people, they have to be on JoinUp as registered users. You cannot invite people outside of the platform. Okay, so be sure that you have them on JoinUp first. And this is for authors, of course, right? Inviting is allowed by authors. Dynamic, very dynamic element. Definitely use it as much as possible. Here we're going to, this is a new feature actually that we released lately in the past months. And this is mainly targeted on the one side to community managers who can actually create announcements. And the good thing is that I'm sure the BLSI community was the first community, if I'm not wrong, that used this feature. So congrats and thanks for being the first ones to test it also for us officially. So yes, I think it was the first community that reached out to their members with an announcement. So announcements actually allow exactly what the bullet point says here, community managers finally to reach their members. Okay, so they can shoot out bulletins, announcements, or major news flashes, things that they want to reach the whole member base of their community. Again, only members of the community can receive the announcement. So be sure, if you want to receive these important messages, become a member. Don't just browse around the community. And of course, you can unsubscribe, as we will see follow in another slide. You can subscribe from subscription announcements and other elements. So very, very important features. So community managers can reach members. Okay, and of course, only for managers to set and shoot out. Members, of course, will receive and they can consume the content. Okay, let's go to the other, and I'm just speeding up here. Of course, any questions, I guess in the chat or any hand could be raised. We will have questions, I guess, in the discussion part either way, so for you to address it, add your input. So last slide for the interaction part. This is from the side of the community manager. Now, how you can reach them. So you're a member, you're a user, you want to reach them. In the past, many of you, I think, remember that to do that, you had to go to the About page, scroll down, and see an email. Obviously, that was not very privacy or GDPR, let's say, friendly. So what we did now, we introduced the online forms, contact forms. So here, they give you, as mentioned here, quick and easy communication. First of all, you don't need any more a client-based email software. Click, you have the form, everything is in the browser, and you shoot out the message. And as mentioned, it enhances the privacy of everyone here. Owners, community managers, let's say, because we don't expose any emails anymore, plus the members, they don't have to, they just shoot out the email there, the form through the online, their browser. So friendlier, easier, quicker. And keep in mind, as the post-it says here, community managers will have to validate their contact details to enable this contact link. Okay, and if they haven't, we had emails going out to all community managers. If you lost that or didn't have time to validate, get in touch with the JoinUp support team at the footer, the JoinUp support link there, and we will guide you on how to validate your email. Now, another important aspect, so we saw how you can interact, create stuff, what are the types and all that. Content consumption, because once you start doing all that, you also want to be, let's say, informed of what's happening around the platform and receive, let's say, notifications of updates and all the relevant, let's say, things going around in your community. So here you can see we have the subscriptions, let's say, dashboard or page. So it's the My Subscriptions option. If you go to your avatar icon, of course, you have to be signed in. So at the top right, you'll see your avatar, you click it, you go to My Subscriptions. You will see now a list of the collections and solutions, or communities, let's call them all, where you have become a member of. So there you can start fine-tuning where and how you want to receive the notifications of any updates. As you can see, you can change the frequency, and it's daily, weekly, or monthly. And these come in like a digest email. So if you click weekly or monthly, you're going to have all these groups under one, let's say, neat email. Of course, per community, you can fine tune what content type you wish to receive updates for. So you can see solution, discussion, document, event, news, and announcements. We have the basic, all the main ones. Anything that you don't check, you won't receive updates. So if the community creates a news item, for example, you have it unchecked, you won't receive a notification of this news item in your digest email, let's say. So a nice way to receive notifications if you want to see what's happening in your community and in other communities, of course, right? Wherever you are a member of. And as stated, you can opt out of announcements in this page. So you can see that we have the announcements checkbox, and you're free to opt out of that. And I think the last one here, which I will pass the floor to Bernard for this one, it's a new thing coming to join us. Bernard, if you wish.
Yes, here we will introduce a new concept in JoinUp to help any user in JoinUp, so to be guided. So today, to find content in JoinUp, usually you have to use the search or you click on a link because it was published on a social network. Here, with these new features, on the home page, we will see the 8 main topics of JoinUp. So what is the content of JoinUp? And here we will see specifically a topic related to all legal aspects of the interoperability. But we will have also a topic about the semantic, another important layer of the interoperability. And so it's a friendly way to discover content in JoinUp. So that we will deliver that by the end of the month, and so you are welcome to discover these new features very soon. That's it for JoinUp. So,
and
yes.
I could just add one thing more, just and I can.
That I think Isa will present that.
Yes, I think it's for Isa. And just to keep everyone informed here, of course, we have things coming to JoinUp about the community engagement process and the content, right? So we're going to have something like a like feature for your content, so people can like it and you can see how popular it becomes. A dashboard for newsletters. So all these are in the roadmap. You can go to the JoinUp collection or community on the navigation menu, hit the JoinUp roadmap link, and you can see the other features that we're going to bring in the coming months to the platform. Okay. Yeah, sorry, Bernard.
Yeah, just before handing to you. So for me, many thanks, Bernard and Petro, for this presentation. It was very useful and hopefully you as well to see how JoinUp is really the tool where we maintain our community, where we run this community, also the digital ready policymaking or BLSI community where we are today. And that's why it's really important that you sign up for a community, that you become a member if you are not yet. You also explore the subscription feature to see for which type of content you are really very much sharpened your mind to always keep up to date. And then now also a little message to Isa, we need to also mind the time. So what we want to show you how we plan to position the digital ready policymaking topic. So Isa will show you the first draft of this page and gather some inputs on that. And parallel of the JoinUp discussion, I wanted to mention that there was a very nice chat discussion still around the topics which we could possibly explore in future webinars. So just to note, we had the element, we haven't mentioned the EIF, the European Interoperability Framework and its evolution, which is part of the Interoperable Europe Act and which is also super important for our community because, for example, in the future interoperability assessments, there is an alignment check with the EIF. There was also an angle around international collaboration. So not only the EU perspective, but interoperability is cross-border and not only the cross-European borders. So how to address the international angle, and also stakeholder management was mentioned among the topics, or funding as well. So it was just a recap what happened around the topics. And Isa.
Yeah, thank you. And then I also, the last comment is on Miro, that is not no corporate tool and no open source, but this is maybe the solutions that the commission, the public administrations in Europe would need in the future to develop. I don't know. So it's an idea maybe already. As you heard in JoinUp, there will be this new feature of topic pages. This means that when you enter JoinUp, you will be directly guided, and we are very happy that you might be directly guided to our topic of digital ready policymaking. And we want to ask you as our community, because we have drafted this first input, which is, of course, I don't know if you know our JoinUp space, you might find back the topics that we are having today, the digital ready policies, legislation and technology, regulatory reporting. We are already having the trainings, and we are also featuring some solutions, like, for example, the LEOS solution, which is a solution to draft legal text. And we have explored in webinars in the past on how we can even use artificial intelligence to help legal drafters to detect barriers in law. So this is why we think it's a relevant solution for our audience. But of course, we would like to hear you. What are the things that you think are the most important for digital ready policymaking for this topic? What would you like to see on the front page when you click on the topic? What entry points does it meet? So really feel free to bring in your suggestions. So the topic pages, we can choose the popular content on the first 6 ones, and there we really. Your input is very, and you could see it implemented right away. And you can use the sticky notes already below to put in anything that you would like to, that you don't like about how we now propose it, or that you would propose to do. And then maybe if we go back just to explain the structure. So we can now choose the 6 topics there on the top. So there, your input on this is nice. And then in the spotlight, this is something that this is like upcoming news, and they're really this how Petro explained that it's straightforward and easy to upload your content. So whenever you have something that you think is potentially interesting for the community, you just put it up there. And there, if there is something that is interesting for your community, be aware that JoinUp can now also translate from English to other languages. So if your colleagues don't speak English, you just click translate and it's translated. And the latest news is something that's coming automatically. So this we cannot change. So your input mostly on this popular content things. What are the solutions we should put up front? What kind of explanations, for example. So if you yes?
Also, sorry, a note here. Also in the spotlight section, this is updated on a monthly basis. So there we can also highlight any news items, events that come from our community members.
Okay, and then we basically invite you now back to the board. So if you even looked at this presentation in Teams, now go back to the board, please. And if you follow Athena, Crony, you should end up in this bluish sticky notes. So we have one question, what Isa explained now, any first feedback on the topic page, but I can imagine for some of you, you may need more time and possibly you opt for coming back later. But there is also another question just above the topic page feedback is how would you like to collaborate with the community through JoinUp? It's also bluish sticky notes. So you may have now also feedback. Are you happy with the collaboration features we showed you, like discussions and commenting, subscribing, or would you need something more? So please, I don't see yet the busy bees flying on the board. So just please join us back to the board. And you will find, could you, Athena, is there this convene function to convene everyone around this board, because it will be easier?
I cannot, but yes, on the top right corner, you can click on my avatar. But I see that we have some input also on the Teams chat.
Yeah, and voila, I see now the people arrive. Super. here there.
Can I jump in? Because I think it's very, very useful to have a structure. And the structure of the SDGs, which are the common goals of humanity for 2030, that could be a target where the people could hand on what they're looking for, because under the SDGs you could put different solutions for different things where you have a clear mode where to look after.
And can I ask back, is this proposal for the full join up, or is it just for our community? Because
it's a proposal how you structure your internet platform, because if you have a site, you need a way how to handle and organize your things in your web page. A web page has the problem that it creates too much temporary. You have too much things, and the people need a way to see what they are looking after, and which is not too complicated. And the SDGs are just 17 things, and you can put all things of the earth into it.
very interesting. Yeah, I would need to further think about it to picture it, how it could work.
But I like the sense, maybe it's not, I don't see the direct implementation yet, but it's very much goes in the twin transition, the digital and green transition and sustainable development goals, SDG stands for. So basically it's something, a narrative, a structure, which is also striving the Commission policy making, and we need to pair up any policy proposals on which SDG with sustainable development goals it's acts upon. So it's an interesting entry idea and structure. Many thanks. And I'm quite vigilant of the time. Do I see some input?
Here for the topic page.
Yeah, how we can cope with old legislation that cannot be changed or adopted to new digital needs. Is there a workaround? So this existing acquis, which is very much on our radar. Many thanks. And indeed, so it's one thing to influence how we create new digital-ready policies, what we do with the legacy. And yeah, I also know this for future topics, because maybe you have ideas who put here this question.
And for me, both inputs now go in the direction of linking our space, actually the community, with the legislation, like really, like the legislation for today is in EURLEX. And I don't know, but to give a structured way into EURLEX legal resources, linking with technical solutions. But this
okay,
again,
this is something we need to digest, let's say. But many thanks. And I call in the last team to come in and to move into the last interaction with you on your training needs. So we will show you in a minute what are the trainings already available, what are the existing export training needs, and what is missing, and where you would like to us or together to develop new content. So Vivian, please.
Perfect. Yes, thank you very much.
Please speak up. It's very, very...
Yeah. Is it better now?
Okay. Yes.
I will hold the mic a bit closer. Thank you. So thanks a lot for the quick introduction. That is exactly what we will do in this part. So this will be presented by myself, Esther, and Anne-Christine, my colleagues from the project team of Wavestone Luxembourg. And well, so far you have heard about the Interoperable Europe Act as well as the Join Up portal. So right now, what we would like to do is to gather your training needs. So the Act includes a dedicated article on the trainings, and it is also, of course, very often mentioned throughout the document. And where do we come in all of this? Our community has a constantly evolving learning hub or repository of learning material around the topics of digital-ready policy making, legislation and technology, as well as regulatory reporting. It is made for and open to policymakers, legal drafters, IT profiles, business profiles. So anyone from the Commission internally, as well as the member states. It will be relevant for them and they will find relevant training material. And of course, all of the learning material that we have gathered throughout the time is based on our community's needs. So that is why we're here. We're doing this exercise again with all of you. Then what we have done so far in terms of trainings that we have created ourselves, we refer to them as the BLSI training path. So first, there is what is the better legislation for smoother implementation and why it needs teamwork. There is the digital ready policy making, and published in the upcoming days, so you can already access the link to enroll and do the training soon, is the streamlining of regulatory reporting. Then, of course, on top of these three, there's a lot of other learning material that we have shared on the BLSI as a repository. And it can be documents, it can be other training videos, it can be any discussions that may be relevant. And these are the ones that you see on the sticky notes below in blue. And what we aim to do is to gather your thoughts, whether these still make sense today for you, and if there are any gaps to fill. So what we have prepared for you is a list of all of the learning material and topics that are available on the Learning Hub of the BLSI. And we invite you to write in the empty ones any new topics that you don't see here that you would like to have a training on, or documentation that you would like to see in one place. And afterwards, we will prioritize these needs with the help of the thumbs up. So you may already feel free to do this at the same time. You may prioritize the ones that you see listed there. And as soon as some new ones appear, you may also add some thumbs up for those. So we invite you back onto the Miro board. This one will be quite interactive for you.
And again, if you don't have access to the Miro board, do not hesitate to write any training needs that you have in the chat of the teams.
Okay, and basically your first task is a bit digesting, seeing what's already there. So these needs were gathered more than a year ago, also in a community setting, even almost 2 years now. So these are the initial harvest of needs, and we acted upon on some. So that's the 3 training we showed you, that we already created some training on digital ready policy making, regulatory reporting. But there are some more which are on the table, and we want to see, are they still actually relevant for you, or is it something more burning? So we can also direct our activities. And the first thumbs ups are showing up. So we have topics or needs from the past, like digital ready drafting. It clearly has some traction. Understanding lowest code, or applying the once only principle and reusing data. I see a thumb up also on aligning policies with existing digital policies, but there are some more needs. You see, we were exploring needs like reusing existing IT tools. I see a new need, finding the tools could be something related, or who is adding these finding tools? Do you mean more IT tools, or even just guidance materials, if you can be more specific on that? Also, to specify the IT roles for policy, do we need that? And then, yeah, there are still some more needs from the past, like understanding interoperability across the policy cycle, or understanding new trends of digital transformation, digital government transformation, looking in the ethical aspects of emerging technologies, how to form a multidisciplinary team, because we claim that multidisciplinary teams are an enabler of digital readiness.
Sophia, can I just make a point about applying once only and reusing data? I wanted to make the link with the work that started in the regulatory reporting about how to make use of data spaces, and we have a strong focus on the reuse of data. I think that it could be hooked into this, and maybe we will pay attention that this issue paper becomes something that is available for the whole community. And I think it worth mentioning to this audience as well. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. I think I interrupted the Wavestone team event, so I just
no, not at all. This is great. I mean, we want to have a conversation. Absolutely. I would have to ask though for the person who kindly wrote cooperation, whether they could expand as well on what they meant with that. Law as code is definitely getting a lot of traction. Yes, and there's even some further information on law as code and control within algorithms at a vendor level. You may also think of topics relevant for the Interoperable Europe Act. If any of the topics presented by Isa before, you would need more information on them. Okay, I still see some of our guests moving around. Automated control.
So I see quite a lot of law as code, machine legislation and technology bit. So many thanks for signposting this. And I would say I also see this comment on the who is controlling the algorithm, and most probably it also links up with the ethical aspect. So and transparency, closing the circle. Okay, I think we can move on.
Yes, perfect. Of course, feel free to come back to this part whenever after the webinar. And now I will leave the floor to my colleague, Esther.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So now that we have a bit discussed your needs in terms of topics for those trainings, we would like to get a more sense of your expectation in terms of the training format itself. So here there are two exercises that you can do in parallel if you want, because the first one relates to the 3 trainings that we created. So the one related to what is BLSI and why it needs teamwork, the digital ready policymaking, and the soon to be published regulatory reporting training. So for this one, you might not have a feedback yet, but maybe in the coming days. So in the first part, we would like to understand what kind of format you like. So if the format that we proposed in those training met your expectations in terms of training needs, or if you prefer another format, another duration, and if you think there is something that is missing. So if you were expecting something else from those trainings and you didn't find it in the end, please let us know. And if you have no experience with any of these 3 training, you can go to the second part, so where you can give us a more general point of view on what you like or don't like about learning material. So maybe you prefer to have PDF documents to gain knowledge on a topic rather than a video format or an online course. So feel free to also let us know what you prefer as a type of material to learn from. So interactive videos or just videos with quiz. Let us know anything that you would prefer, and maybe if you prefer when it's 20 minutes or shorter, or if you would like to see something that is more on the long term. Yeah, please feel free to share any insight that you have on this, because we want to make this training that could fit your preferences, of course.
And of course, you may base your answers on just general good practices if you have not followed the current training path.
Exactly.
Discussions. That's very true. I see short videos, learning nuggets, online discussions. Yes, it's very important to be able to exchange ideas. after having done a training.
And what is this challenge-based online discussion? How to imagine that? There is a question, what is the challenge part? If someone participated in this type of activity, if you have a link or a good practice to share, I would be really curious to learn. Because I think personally, I'm also struggling that clearly I would like to expand my knowledge and pick up new experiences or just more abstract knowledge, and we are overloading now also with a lot of training. So what is the best feature? Sorry.
So Marina shared in the chat.
Yeah, I see.
It's based on gathering input.
The challenge could be that I put out my problem, I put out my project, and then I gather the input of others. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably.
I have a lot of problems for you. So we will have a lot of such trainings then.
It's online brainstorming. That's
okay.
Great.
A lot of ideas, and we have 8 minutes to go, so maybe time to attack the very, very last bit of, or last 2 bits of the interaction.
Yes, also, good morning from me. I'm Christine, also part of the Wavestone team. Lastly, we now want to review the Learning Hub with you together, maybe also based on your experiences with other training repositories. So our questions in this last interactive part on our side would be, how could we make the Learning Hub more user-friendly to you? So if you have any insights on or ideas how we could facilitate using the trainings and using the Learning Hub for you, just please leave them on the sticky notes below. All the green ones could be, for example, creating more categories, like subsections under which we structure the trainings, or maybe using some UX methodology. And there's also a second question we would like to ask you, if you have any learning material that could be added under the existing learning needs, please feel free to share them with us here. Just maybe include the name, possibly with a URL link on the sticky notes under the last question. Also, if you do not have the time now to interact here, please come back to the Miro board to add your additions to how to make the Learning Hub most useful for you.
And maybe this also links to what we were discussing about before, the discussions that you can raise in the join up page, or the documents that you can upload and initiate discussions through comments. So I also put here on the link on the chat, the link on how you can contribute to our community, the step-by-step guide.
Indeed, and here as well, if you're not familiar with the BLSI, you can also leave comments based on other repositories that you have come across before that you liked what they did, be it on JoinUp or OECD, can be anything. And indeed, the screenshots above is just to show you, in case you're not familiar with it, what it looks like at the moment. Your Academy platform.
Yeah, I just added because someone kindly, and it's super interesting, pointed out that the Swedish Employment Office has a very good online learning tool with text-based materials, so we will check it out. And also to share with you that our trainings are placed on the EU Academy platform under the Interoperable Europe Academy branding. But this is basically the platform where we host the trainings, which are for the time being short, partially online trainings. And what we showed here, this Learning Hub is basically our entry page. So you can find here links both to these online trainings, but also to written materials and so on. And I see for the training materials that use cases and concrete examples from national, local levels are interesting for you. Tools. What do you mean by tools? These are, yeah, I need some context there. You can just come in, who put this note there to explain, or put a short chat explanation as it suits you, or unmute yourself.
Yo, it's again me. I'm searching for tools for the end users. I think this is the best way to show cases to the public where someone did something someone other wants to do. So we should use the tools others have developed and not create it again, like every community does its own. So we have a lot of things we learned, so we could use them.
Okay, very clear. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, as we have just 3 minutes to go to close the meeting, I suggest that we start the checkout. So personally, I'm really grateful for your numerous and active participation, and also that you gave us signposts where to head, what kind of trainings or webinars to organize. And basically, how I would like to close is really just a call to you that we would like to maintain the spirit even if we are in this virtual space, but maybe it even helps us because we come from many places of Europe or even beyond. So we would like to keep up the interaction and co-creation with you. So I could absolutely imagine that if you are enthusiast of a topic, you signaled you want to be more involved in the preparation of the related training or next webinar. So why not? We could also have this nice facilitation team with some of you next time who is, I don't know, passionate about the governance, top-down, bottom-up. You would like to take a part to organize with us to prepare it and come in and to show and share and facilitate for the next session with additional new members of the community. So with that, we put in the chat the functional mailbox where you can always drop a message for us that, hey, watch out, I have a good example for you to share, or I would like to pair up with you on this project, or I would like to pair up with you on this webinar. I also saw the need, for example, to create a space where we can work on projects together. I think it came from Marcus for this cooperation. So let's experiment how we can do it best together and really bring your ideas. Also, Athena shared with you in the chat how you can visit our specific community space on JoinUp and contribute there. So please do so, please, even if I know everyone has its busy agenda, let's try to find little synergies when we can work together and yeah, move the joint global project of this nicely interconnected Europe ahead together. So with that, a big thanks to all the speakers, all the participants, and have a very, very nice day. And thanks for the thanks in the chat. It's appreciated, your feedback. Also your feedback. Did you like this setup? Did you like this Miro board? Even if the Miro board solution not, but this type of interaction, you would expect next time more just discussion without any slides. So also, if you have any kind of feedback for us, it's always very much welcome. And I stop because it's 11 and you would need your refill of coffee, tea, or even snacks. So many, many thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Everyone.
everyone.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.